Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for watching. I've got you guys an update on a massive severe weather event that's going to be taking place across the central and eastern United States. As we get later into this week, we've got big time impacts coming up with a lot of concerning details to go through. We're going to be breaking down all of that coming right up. All right, so thank you all for joining me here on this Tuesday evening. We've got basically just the entire breakdown of what we know so far with our upcoming severe weather event. I know we just got through that big outbreak in the lower Midwest and into the Ohio Valley. That was pretty bad. But yeah, we got more severe weather coming. We really got to break this one down because this one may end up being equally as intense as last week's one, or however many weeks it was. I think it probably was last week's. All right, starting out, taking a look at your current radar, you've got a pretty big storm system moving across eastern United States, bringing extraordinarily heavy rainfall to the Florida Panhandle. I think we're going to see some flood watches become issued here. I don't think that we already have any flood watches, but I mean, you've got a big line of storms that's moving through the southeast. Look at all these storms all the way up to Indiana. These could be strong. These could be definitely strong thunderstorms. I don't think we're going to see any big-time severe thunderstorms. There still is, I believe, a marginal risk for severe weather, so there is a chance for severe thunderstorms in this area. But don't be caught off guard. Don't be surprised. And I know I think there was a confirmed tornado in Wisconsin today, and that's pretty far north. So, just to be aware that the severe threat is pretty far north with this. All right, we're seeing rain all the way up into the northeast, the interior, and the eastern United States. This rainy weather will continue into tomorrow, especially for folks up the East Coast. Central United States, you're pretty much dry with some storms back here into Texas, and then up here in the Pacific Northwest, you've got a lot of energy that's kind of just hanging around that's going to help build this next storm system that's coming up. But you've got a lot of snowfall, mountain snow, and a lot of rainfall just kind of scattered all over the place out in the west. All right, so let's move on here to your alerts. All right, you don't have much to make mention of, but we do have some alerts to go over. So you can see starting out here in southern New England, this is going up from Boston down through Connecticut, Rhode Island. This is all Long Island, New York City, and then the Jersey coast. We have an aerial flood watch. All right, we have been dealing with excessive rainfall today. I know I picked up, I think, over half an inch of rainfall, so it's been just raining pretty steadily all day. I don't think we're going to see any big time flooding, but it's definitely still a potential issue here for the evening commute. But I do think that flooding problems won't be such a big deal getting into tonight. I believe this is a dense fog advisory here for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. In your purple shade, you've got winter weather advisories. In the pink shade, you've got winter storm warnings here for the Pacific Northwest. You have red flag warnings still up for northeastern New Mexico. All right, and then you can also see in this orange shade here, this is where we have special marine warnings. I believe that there is actually, let's click on this. I want to see what this is about. All right, yeah, so look at this. This is a big thunderstorm that's moving here on Florida. I think that there's a chance for some water spouts. All right, because look at these little tiny storms here. These are, I wouldn't say discrete, but these could definitely be strong to severe storms that could be rotating. And so if we get one of those to form just off the coast, water spouts are possible. So let's click here on this special marine warning to see what this is. So here we go. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing water spouts. There we go. There you have it. So this is why we have the special marine warning. This is for the coastal waters from Englewood to Tarpon Springs, Florida, out 20 nautical miles. Coastal waters from Tarpon Springs is Swanee River, Florida, out 20 nautical miles. So yeah. So this is until 10:15 p.m. EST. So this is out for a whole 45 minutes, I would say, probably maybe a little bit more. But at 8:42 p.m. EST, so that was 25 minutes ago, whatever. A severe thunderstorms capable of producing water spouts were located along a line extending from 43 nautical miles west of Anclote Key to 39 nautical miles west of Indian Rocks Beach to 54 nautical miles southwest of Egmont Key, moving northeast at 35 knots. Hazard water spouts and wind gusts to 40 knots, so you could argue that that's up to 50 miles per hour. So we do actually end up having severe thunderstorms. As far as we know right now, they're off the coast. But there you go. There you have it. You have a real chance for water spouts. So yeah, I mean, just be careful if you're on the coastal regions of Florida. It could be a wild night. All right, but just going back to this radar, you can see we got a parade. This is that line of storms that they were talking about on the special marine warning. All right, you can actually see that Tampa is pretty close to the outside edge of this box or this warning area. That's really for the immediate coastal regions here of Florida, and then out to I think in the message it said about 50 nautical miles. But yeah, you've got a monster line of storms that's just offshore, and you can see that. I think that what if we would see water spouts, it would be right here. You see this little tiny bubble forming. I know we're zooming in, so it's getting pretty glitchy, but you can see how we have a little bit of almost a bubble. All right, and we actually do seem to have a hook echo starting to form on one of these. So this, I think that if we were to get a water spout, all right, look, all right, this is what I'm watching. This is the cell. All right, so let's say it's ending right in this area. This is moving to basically the east northeast. So if this were to continue its drag, this could actually end up moving through North Tampa. So later tonight, this will actually end up moving on shore. So if this does eventually decide to drop a water spout, if rotation gets strong enough, I think it's possible that we could get a tornado in the Tampa, Florida area. I'm just saying, guys. And if let's say these storms continue to, it's possible that we actually see these tornadic storms start to fire across the rest of Florida. We're talking about maybe Orlando, or maybe even all the way up to like Dayton Beach, or even Palm Coast. I doubt it's going to get that far north, but Tampa, watch out for some rotating thunderstorms. And we already have a special marine warning in effect, so just please be aware of that. Going back to your alerts map, nothing else to make mention of. You do have some dense fog advisories here off the coast of Louisiana and Texas, so nothing that you really need to be concerned about, because I think this isn't only including a few counties on the inside the coast. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it. All right, so let's break down this next storm system coming up. It's a doozy. All right, we have a lot of new information coming up. I haven't been doing any updates since that last severe weather event kind of took a break as the weather calmed down a little bit. And so we're going to be back in the groove here. And so we got to take a look at this. So once again, at this point, you've got a zonal flow. All right. So I thought that we were going to go, I haven't looked at the GFS lately, so I thought that we were going to go back to this kind of similar pattern that we were in for the most recent severe weather event. But no, at this point, we have a zonal flow, which basically means we don't have any ridging going on, we don't have any dips in the jet stream, we don't have any cold blasts coming down, no cold fronts, no nothing. All right, this is a zonal flow, which means that the jet stream basically just moves from west to east, doesn't bump north, doesn't go dip south. You just got a zonal flow. That's pretty boring. But look at all this energy that's kind of been floating around here. We're already getting into this is on Thursday. All right, this is Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Now we're getting to 1 p.m. By the time we get to 1 p.m., you've got your own low pressure center that's deepening. It's already down to 1,000 millibars, and you can actually see it's trying to take on a negatively tilted look to it. This is a good setup for severe weather. Now, you do actually at this point have a bowling ball trough that's digging down here into this region, and you've got cold air that's trying to somewhat fill in behind this. And this storm starts to evolve, and you can see rainfall in this warm sector begin to kind of just get bigger, and the warm sector gets all the way up to the Great Lakes. But you still got rain, and this, you could argue that this would be thunderstorms all the way up to the Midwest. All right, but we got to check in on these dew points, because let's say you have storms up here in the Midwest, but you don't have such moist air, such humid air, then you're probably gonna have to eliminate the chance for severe thunderstorms, or at least limit the chance for severe thunderstorms without that crucial component. Right, you need high dew points. But on the GFS, when you're looking at a long range model like this, you want to look for the more intense colors like orange and red when you're looking for severe weather. All right, so this is getting into Friday. This is Friday afternoon. And this is about 1 p.m. And this is where we start to see some storms start to pop off here. And we're looking for Thursday and Friday as our severe threat. This is Thursday. I don't think we're going to see much because actually we're already getting into Friday. So this is Thursday. Thursday, you don't really see much. I mean, we're talking about more of a deep south severe threat. You don't see much, but it's Friday that looks a little bit more concerning. Because look at this, you've got storms. These would be severe all the way up into central and southern portions of Missouri. We could have a secondary threat up there, and then also the main threat is in the Dixie Alley down here into Mississippi and Alabama. And that's possible. That's like late evening on Friday. We're getting to Saturday here. This continues with that low pressure into central Illinois. Still some severe storms raging down there into Georgia and the Carolinas. I mean, this could actually end up continuing into Saturday, and that's pretty intense. I mean, this is looking a lot more promising. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna click for sounding. All right, we're gonna look at photographs. So let's get one for Friday. This is 7 p.m. Friday. We'll put it right. Let's take it down here. All right, so let's look at this. Okay, so we'll start out with rotation. Rotation, decent. All right, you can see it's a little bit curved here. This is what you want, a curved line close to the ground. So you see a little bit of lower level rotation that would support tornadoes. Not a bad sounding for rotation. What about your CAPE levels? CAPE levels not too high, and your dew points aren't high enough. All right, but it's pretty close to that line of temperature, so it's a decent sounding here. But look at this temperature. This is what really could be fueling this. These storms. All right, 69 degrees. All right, you're almost at 70 degrees down here. So if you get moist air, it's possible you get severe weather. All right, now let's continue this into the rest of the southeast towards the Carolinas. Let's get right in the middle of northern Georgia. All right, let's look at this. Rotation looks much better. All right, much more robust rotation here. This actually is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. This is looking pretty good. I mean, this is pretty complete rotation that we see here, getting very close down to the ground here. All right, and look at, I mean, these CAPE levels are getting a lot higher here, and we have a temperature a little bit lower. This is 54 degrees. That's pretty. You're getting a little in the danger zone there. You know, we're tweaking with like non-severe temperatures and severe temperatures, but that's a little bit of a better sounding that we see there. And let's see if this will continue into the Carolina coastline. Do we see that? We're up to 60 degrees, so I think that you're going to have the moist air, due to the fact that we're on the coast of the Atlantic, and some lower level rotation, but definitely not as impressive of what we saw in Georgia. So I think we might see a secondary, like, Saturday threat. Like, this would probably be for very early morning hours of Saturday. So Friday to Saturday is a possible time frame on the GFS that we see for maybe the highest severe threat. So let's break this down. Let's look at the European model here for your dew points. So ignore this. This is that first wave that's coming with our storm system that we've got going on right now. This is your marginal risk that's happening right now. And then here comes your second storm. This is Thursday. All right, your Thursday morning, you're already waking up to dew points getting into the low to mid 60s here, all really up from extreme eastern Texas into Louisiana, Arkansas, and then really the entire deep south, all the way over to the Carolinas. You're set and ready in the morning of Thursday in the 60s, but notice how we see these dew points start to retreat. What we may see is we may see this dry air try to push farther south. That may be a reason why we see the severe threat farther south, is because this cold air wants to shove this farther south. Let's say we get high pressure up here, all right, like up in the upper Midwest. That would definitely eliminate that severe threat for Thursday and just lower those dew points, keep the highest dew points farther south, maybe even completely off the coast, but still in the southern Texas and along the Gulf Coast, you're hanging on to a very low 60s, but there's that low pressure. You can see the warm air kind of wrapping into that low pressure center with the warm sector up here. But anyways, this is Thursday. This is getting into late Thursday. Whoa, we jumped ahead way too far. All right, here we go. So this is Thursday night, and we start to see these dew points get a little bit higher, a little bit further north. So now we're getting into the lower to mid 60s, all the way up to really Oklahoma and Arkansas. This general area, you're in the 50s for your dew points. That could support strong to severe thunderstorms, but the juicy stuff, the real juicy stuff, is 60-degree dew points. And here comes Friday. Friday looks much better. And, one thing to kind of compare to last week's severe threat, we had that dry line. Do you see any big time like dry line here where you're looking for a big contrast between like 60 and 20 degree dew points? We don't see that, and we can see that the highest dew points are actually fairly far away from where the dry line would be, supposedly. This is where your dry cold front is coming in, and you are actually seeing dew points get up all the way to 70 degrees down here into southern Texas. All right, but even in like the San Antonio area, you could argue up into like the DFW area, maybe up to 65-degree dew points possible. Friday, the warm sector getting much bigger. This is Friday afternoon, your prime time severe threat. The dry line is starting to form, but it's not as robust as what we saw last week. But look at this purple shade. I mean, you're getting dew points in the upper 60s, lower 70s, but still mid to upper 60s possible, all the way up into like Arkansas here. So Friday evening. This is Friday evening into Friday night, and do we see this dry line form? No. I mean, it gets a little intense over here. It gets a little intense, but you don't see a really just perfect dry line that would kill the threat for severe thunderstorms. So this might as well continue into the rest of the southeast, because you can still see dew points still getting their way up into the like Tennessee, the Tennessee Valley here, the Dixie Valley still getting into the 60s. So pretty broad warm sector. And this is where we see that threat for very early Saturday. All right, you can see dew points getting into the 60s, now nearing Georgia. That's where we saw that severe threat with the sounding that we looked at. Now we're getting all the way, this is Saturday night. All right, and I mean, look at these dew points into Georgia. We're getting into the upper 60s, and this is spreading in the Carolinas, and you don't have any dry line showing up here. I mean, look at this contrast. It's a little bit lower here, but still, I mean, you're going from 63 to only about 58, so not a huge drop there. And yeah, you're not gonna have a problem with the dry air. I really don't think so. I think maybe for maybe for Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday is when you're really going to have just the prime time for those highest dew points. And this continues into the Carolinas. I don't see any problem with dew points in the Carolinas. Obviously, Florida, the Gulf of Mexico right now is a hot tub. So you've got basically all the moisture all the moisture comes from the Gulf of Mexico just because of how warm those sea surface temperatures are. There's so many different moving parts and components to how these storms become generated and how they fire across the region, but you can see on the Carolina coastline still dew points getting up in the lower 60s, and then finally storm system moves on out. So we move on here to your 500 millibar jet stream winds. Let's get this going here. One moment. All right, so let's put this in motion. Let's get this out to Thursday. So this is your positively tilted trough. It's a bowling ball trough that's digging down here through the southwest. It's kind of riding that Pacific jet stream, while your northern branch jet stream, your polar jet stream is up north. These two jet streams may end up merging together, and that is more of a complicated forecast, more of a complicated way to get severe weather. That's what we saw last week, and last week we did see that come through. We don't really see much of that happening here, but this trough is taking on a completely positively tilted trough look to it. All right, I think I said this trough is taking a completely positively tilted trough. Oh gosh, can't speak. But here we go. This is Saturday. All right, and this is pretty far behind of where that severe threat is. All right, so you can see that, back into Texas, we've got about a 70 to 80 knot jet stream. All right, but even down here into the Dixie Valley and Mississippi, Alabama, still 50 to 60 knot jet stream. You could argue that this is getting up to 70, but remember that this is early morning Saturday, so that's where we have the severe threat is really into Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, so right into here. So basically about, like 30,000 feet above your head, these are how strong these winds are. You got a decent lower level jet stream, about 50 to 70 knots. All right, so that's pretty good. That could definitely support some damaging wind gusts, but I do think that this is really going to be a tornado threat. All right, but let's see if you get changing heights. Changing heights basically means that you get, changing direction. You want shear. Wind shear is when you get changing direction in the different heights of the atmosphere. So what we'll look at, we'll compare these different height these levels here. So the higher the levels here, the higher the millibars, the lower the levels that we're talking about in the atmosphere. So 200 millibars is very high up in the atmosphere. That's your upper level jet stream, and the 950 millibar winds are like winds that are, you could argue, about like 10,000 feet above your head, so pretty close to the ground. So this here 500 millibar jet stream, basically the standard height that we look at when we're looking at your jet stream pattern. So we're just looking at the strength of our jet stream here. This starts to slowly but surely take on that negative tilt, with still a more of an amplified jet stream blowing at about 80 to 100 knots over Tennessee and the Tennessee Valley before that moves on out, and we see this move off the coast. So that was your 500 millibar jet stream winds. Now let's look at your upper level winds. So what we're going to look at is, you see these little like wind axes here. All right, you see how they're pointing like in a certain direction. We'll see. All right, so the winds are moving at this point. They are moving in this direction. Let me change that color. Hold up. Make that yellow. So the winds at this point in the 500 millibar height range, they are moving here up to the north and west. All right, so let's look at your 200 millibar heights. Do we see different direction? Let's get this going. And hold up. All right. And yes, we do. You can see that it's not huge. It's not a big difference. This is looking a little bit messy. All right, but not a huge difference. But yeah, you can see we're not going up to the north and west like that. We're actually going more like west to east. So that's your upper level wind speeds. All right, now let's look at your lower level wind speeds. Your 925 millibar. All right, let's get this going. Let's take this to Saturday here, and this definitely looks different. You can see that we're seeing kind of all over the place. We're going north, we're going south, we're going like rotating around the low pressure center. So yeah, you do. I mean, I know it looks messy, and I know that I definitely did not explain that in the best way possible. But all in all, you will see changing heights, but it just doesn't look that impressive. You'll definitely see, later in the year. I know we'll definitely have tornado outbreaks, and severe weather outbreaks this year. But later in the year, we'll definitely have a better example of changing heights. But just to give you guys a preview and trying to figure out if we see that in this week's severe threat, you want to compare the different heights of jet streams. You want to see different wind direction, and basically that signifies wind shear and changing heights. And wind shear basically. Wind shear and changing heights, just basically in simple terms, it supports tornado threat because you get changing wind directions up in the atmosphere. So it's pretty complicated. It's pretty hard to kind of explain. But once again, there will definitely be one of those big time severe weather outbreaks, big time tornado outbreaks. We'll have a much better example of changing heights and wind shear. Just to talk about and to show you guys. But here we go. This year SPC outlook. We're back to this. This is a thing that we've feared after. Really, last year. We'll go back to last year. Just recap last year. Last year was pretty incredible for severe weather. But what was even more incredible was the 2022 to 2023 winter severe threat. That I thought that we just saw outbreak after outbreak. We must have had 5 or 6 major or at least significant severe weather outbreaks between December and February. All right, and that was just crazy. But even into March, all right, March we had 2 severe weather outbreaks. We had one into early March, and then a few weeks later we had the dual high risk, which we are coming on our 1-year anniversary of having. So that was on March 31st. We had two high risk areas, believe it or not, which is a level 5 out of 5 risk. We had one here in Arkansas and one way up into the upper Midwest into Iowa and Illinois. That was an absolutely crazy day. But I think we just had a very above average severe weather season last year, and I do think that this year it's going to get very active, and especially in the month of March, I think we're going to get a kickstart to severe weather. But anyways, back to the SPC outlook. So this is your day 3 categorical outlook. You are up to a slight risk so far. Pretty intense to get a slight risk already 3 days out. This was originally a day 4 15% risk on the SPC, but this got moved up a day to our day 3 outlook. So this is currently a slight risk, including a population of just over 8.5 million people. This is really including North Central and Central Texas, including Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Plano, and Garland, Texas. This does actually go up into southern Oklahoma, including Fort Sill. All right, but I don't believe that there are any major populated cities, at least, or areas that for this risk area in Oklahoma. Surrounding areas of that, in your dark green shade, you've got a marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5 risk for those areas that will have a shot of seeing severe thunderstorms, but aren't going to be in the highest threat of that day. And then you can see in our probabilistic forecast, you're up to a 15% risk and a slight 5% in the marginal risk. The reason why we don't get our tornado, wind, and damaging hail risk is because we're 3 days out. But once we get to tomorrow, we can see on the day 2 outlook, that's when we can finally get our tornado, wind, and hail potential. So we'll be going over that tomorrow. I'll try to get an update in tomorrow, depending on how bad my homework is. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it. So then your day 4 outlook. This is for Friday into Saturday. All right, this is the day I'm most concerned about. Remember Thursday, when we looked at the GFS surface map, and then we looked at the dew points and the 500 millibar winds. We didn't see much intensity over areas that were expected to see thunderstorms on Thursday. But remember, once we end really late Friday into early Saturday, that's when we really started to saw this threat increase. And you can see with the high dew points on the Gulf Coast getting in almost into the 70s, there you have it. You've got a 15% slight risk on day 4 here for Friday into Saturday. This is including really areas from southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, all the way through the northern and central Louisiana and into eastern Texas. Let's see the population total on this. You got almost 10 million people, including New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, Mobile, Alabama, and Jackson, Mississippi. Those are the most notable cities that are included in this risk. If you're wondering what day 5 looked like, notice how on day 6 the potential is too low here for any severe weather forecast, but day 5 the predictability is too low. So that means that the potential for severe weather isn't too low to the point where they can't basically issue a risk for severe weather. It's just that the predictability is too low. So remember, this is for Saturday into Sunday. It's possible that we actually will see by tomorrow another 15% risk get issued. And if that were to get issued, which I'm not saying it's going to be issued, but if it were to be issued, I think it'd be for some region in here. All right, because look, you got 2 open sources. You got the Gulf of Mexico wide open, that's going to be pumping moisture ahead of the system, but you've also got the Atlantic Ocean that can also pump moisture probably equally as much, into the warm sector. Out in front of these storms, kind of just to fuel them and to keep them going. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So I apologize for not uploading in a few days. My hurricane forecast is currently out, and I worked so hard on it, and it's doing pretty good. We're up to about 160 views, but I'm hoping that it can get better. So please, if you haven't already, please check that out. I'll put a link in the pinned comments and in the description, so please check that out. I'll continue to try and my best to update you guys on this upcoming severe threat, and as always, I'll keep you guys posted on whatever happens weather-wise across the country. And then in future updates, we'll break down a little bit into the long term, into the rest of March, and then maybe even into April. It's crazy, we're already in March and April. I can't believe it. All right, we're getting there. We're into spring. It's already meteorological spring, but the official start of spring is coming very, very soon. All right, so thank you all for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video.